I wake up at 5:30 a.m. every morning, to the smell of sawdust and coffee in my workshop. 15 years of friendship with Jackson made hiring him feel like the most natural decision when my custom furniture business finally took off. From a garage hobby to a warehouse with employees, I had built something real. Lately, though, something felt off about Jackson. Small things. Changed passwords, private phone calls, meetings removed from the shared calendar. I ignored the warning signs because who suspects their best friend? If you are watching this from your workshop or office, hit that like button and subscribe to hear how trusting the wrong person cost me everything I had built from theplace.com. Ground up. My story begins in Milwaukee, where I grew up watching my grandfather transform raw lumber into beautiful furniture. His weathered hands guided mine across grain patterns when I was just 8 years old, teaching me to feel the hidden potential in each piece of wood. Those early lessons sparked a passion that never faded, even when my parents pushed me toward a more practical career path. College never suited me. While other students thrived in business classes, I found myself sketching chair designs during lectures and spending weekends at local woodworkers' shops. After 3 semesters of mediocre grades and mounting student debt, I made the decision to drop out and pursue my craft full-time. My parents were devastated, convinced I was throwing away my future for a hobby. That first year was brutal. I converted my parents' garage into a makeshift workshop, selling small pieces at local fairs for barely enough to cover materials. Many nights I questioned my decision, especially during the harsh Wisconsin winter, when the unheated garage left my fingers too numb to work properly. I met Jackson at the Sawmill, a local bar where craftsmen gathered after long workdays. We bonded instantly over whiskey and shared dreams, mine of building a furniture empire, his of revolutionizing marketing for small businesses. We became inseparable friends through our 20s, supporting each other through failed relationships, family troubles, and career setbacks. When my grandfather passed away and left me his tools, Jackson helped me move them into my workshop. When I caught my girlfriend cheating, Jackson let me crash on his couch for 3 weeks. When his mother was diagnosed with cancer, I drove him to every hospital appointment. Our friendship was forged through 15 years of being there for each other, when no one else was. My business grew slowly, but steadily. My breakthrough came when a wealthy doctor commissioned a complete dining set after seeing one of my tables at a local restaurant. The $10,000 check allowed me to rent a proper workshop space and purchase better equipment. Word spread about my craftsmanship, and within 2 years I had a 6-month waiting list and had raised my prices 3-fold. By my 35th birthday, Baxter Custom Woodworks employed 3 apprentice craftsmen. Our annual revenue hit $750,000, with custom pieces selling for up to $30,000 each. My work had been featured in Architectural Digest and several high-end home design blogs. I was living my dream but drowning in administrative work that kept me from the workshop floor. When Jackson lost his position at the marketing firm during company-wide layoffs, it seemed like perfect timing. He needed work, and I needed someone to handle the business side while I focused on craftsmanship. His marketing background and intimate knowledge of my journey made him the ideal candidate to tell our brand story. I created a position for him, Business Development Director, with a generous salary and profit-sharing agreement. The first 3 months exceeded all expectations. Jackson modernized our website, streamlined client communications, and landed a contract with a boutique hotel chain worth over $200,000. Our workshop expanded to a team of 7, and I finally returned to doing what I loved most, creating beautiful furniture with my hands. Looking back, the warning signs were there. Client emails that Jackson insisted on handling personally. New contract language that he said would protect the business, but seemed unnecessarily complex. Late nights at the office when he thought no one would notice. I dismissed my concerns as adjustment anxiety. After all, handing over any control of your life's work is terrifying. I told myself that Jackson deserved my complete trust. He was family in all but blood. What I failed to see was that while I had been building a business, I had also been building the perfect target. The first concrete sign that something was wrong came on a Tuesday morning. I received a call from Thomas Blackwell, owner of Blackwell Properties and one of our largest clients. His tone was hesitant as he asked about the new arrangement Jackson had proposed. "What new arrangement?" I asked, genuinely confused. Thomas paused before explaining that Jackson had reached out suggesting they work directly together on future projects, promising more competitive rates and faster turnaround times. The conversation ended awkwardly with Thomas promising to email me the details. When I checked my computer for client files to review Thomas's previous orders, I discovered that dozens of client folders had been moved or deleted. The comprehensive client database we had built over years, containing preferences, measurements, and design notes, had been gutted. I confronted Jackson that afternoon, trying to keep my tone casual. "Hey, did you reorganize the client files? I cannot find the Blackwell portfolio." His explanation came too quickly, too smoothly. "Yeah, sorry about that. I transferred everything to the new CRM system we discussed. Remember I sent you the login last week? I can show you how to access everything tomorrow, after the supplier meeting." It sounded reasonable enough, but I never recalled discussing a new system. Still, with deadlines looming and 3 custom pieces in production, I reluctantly accepted his answer and returned to the workshop floor. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a banking notification. Unusual account activity detected. I logged into our business account to find several large transfers to an unfamiliar LLC. A cold feeling settled in my stomach as I dug deeper into our financial records. Someone had attempted to change the signatory permissions on our main business account. The request had been flagged for additional verification, which is what triggered the alert. That evening I stayed late, after everyone had gone home. I searched Jackson's office and found a stack of paperwork hidden in his desk drawer. Applications for business name registration, trademark filings, and domain purchases. He had registered Baxter Heritage Woodworks and purchased the domain name. The paperwork was dated 3 weeks after he started working for me. The next morning, I arrived at the workshop early and accessed Jackson's computer. His password was still our shared fishing spot, Clearwater 45, from our annual trips. What I found shattered any remaining doubt. Jackson had been systematically contacting every client in our portfolio, presenting himself as the new face of the business. He had created a nearly identical logo, company materials, and portfolio, except with his company name. The final confirmation came later that day when I overheard Jackson on a phone call in what he thought was an empty workshop. I had returned silently to retrieve forgotten sketches. "Yes, Mr. Harrington, the transition will be seamless," Jackson was saying to one of our most prestigious clients. "Baxter Custom Woodworks is rebranding to Baxter Heritage Woodworks, and we are streamlining operations. All your existing orders will be fulfilled exactly as specified, just under our new business entity." When I confronted him, the friendly mask dropped completely. The warm smile I had known for 15 years vanished, replaced by cold calculation. "Business is business. Baxter," he said with a shrug. "You built something valuable, but you never protected it properly. I looked at your contracts, full of holes, your client relationships, all based on verbal agreements and handshakes. Your business structure, laughably vulnerable. We are friends," I said, my voice breaking, despite my efforts to stay composed. 15 years, Jackson. And in those 15 years, what do I have to show for it? You built an empire while I bounced between marketing jobs. You own a lake house, while I rent a 1-bedroom apartment. You found your passion while I helped others sell theirs. His eyes narrowed. I learned everything about this business, the clients, the suppliers, the numbers. And I realized I could do it all without you. That night, emails flooded in from confused clients. Jackson had sent out a mass communication, announcing the transition to his new company, claiming it was an amicable business restructuring. By morning, 3 clients had canceled their orders, requesting refunds. By the end of the week, our project calendar had 5 gaping holes where large commissions once stood. I discovered Jackson had been planning this takeover since before I hired him. His getting laid off had been voluntary. He had identified my business as his target months before and orchestrated his availability. What I had seen as friendship in action had been the first step in his calculated betrayal. The following weeks brought a rapid, devastating collapse. Clients continued to abandon ship, either confused by the competing messages or actively poached by Jackson's aggressive outreach. Our $750,000 projected annual revenue plummeted to less than half that virtually overnight. My workshop, once buzzing with activity, grew quieter as I was forced to reduce hours for my team. Bills piled up. Material costs for canceled projects, lease payments on equipment, salaries for employees who stood around increasingly idle. Each morning brought new financial horrors. The worst moment came when I opened an email from Lauren Maxwell, whose family had commissioned 3 generations of dining tables from my grandfather and then from me. While we have valued our relationship, she wrote, we have decided to continue with Jackson at Baxter Heritage. The project is already halfway complete, and he has assured us there will be no quality issues with the transition. I sat alone in my workshop that night, surrounded by the half-finished pieces Jackson had claimed as his own. The betrayal cut deeper than the financial loss. Every joint I had taught him to recognize, every finish technique I had demonstrated, every supplier relationship I had nurtured, all weaponized against me. In desperation, I consulted with a lawyer, wincing at the $500 hourly rate. His assessment was grim. Your contracts have significant vulnerabilities, he explained, reviewing the paperwork. Jackson was made an authorized agent of your company with remarkably few limitations. While what he is doing is clearly unethical, proving it is illegal will be challenging and expensive. I learned that Jackson had exploited a loophole in his employment contract. As business development director, he had legitimate authority to contact clients and discuss future business. Without non-compete and non-solicitation clauses, there was little legal protection against what he had done. The final blow came when Tyler, my head apprentice, gave his notice. Jackson offered me a workshop manager position, he admitted, unable to meet my eyes. 20% more than I make here, plus profit sharing. That night, I sat among the tools my grandfather had passed down to me, running my fingers along the worn handles of chisels and planes that had shaped wood across 2 generations. Bankruptcy paperwork lay half-completed on my desk. Would this be how the legacy ended? Destroyed not by lack of talent or poor craftsmanship, but by misplaced trust. I called my father, something my pride had prevented for months. When your grandfather started, he told me after listening silently to my story, his first workshop burned down, completely destroyed. Insurance denied the claim on a technicality. You know what he did? Rebuilt from the scrap lumber he found behind construction sites. Started smaller, worked harder. The business you remember was his 3rd attempt, not his first. His words struck a chord. Jackson had stolen my client list, my business structure, even my company name. But he could not steal my hands, my eye for grain patterns, or the techniques refined over decades of dedicated practice. That night, something shifted. The devastation transformed into determination. If Jackson wanted war, he would get one, but fought on my terms, not his. I began gathering evidence of Jackson's communications with clients, documenting the timeline of his deception. I recovered deleted emails showing he had contacted suppliers using my company credentials, then redirected orders to his new venture. Most crucially, I found proof he had digitally traced my signature from company documents, actual forgery that crossed the line from unethical to criminal. Rather than crumbling, I formulated a strategy to reclaim what was mine. My counterattack began not with lawyers, but with craftsmanship. I selected the finest piece of black walnut I had been saving for a special project, a book-matched slab, with figuring so beautiful it looked like flowing water captured in wood. Over 72 sleepless hours, I created a writing desk of extraordinary beauty, photographing each stage of the process. Rather than hiding what had happened, I embraced radical transparency. I wrote a personal letter to every client, past, present, and prospective, explaining the situation without vilifying Jackson. A disagreement about business direction, I called it, letting the quality of my work speak louder than accusations. I reached out to my remaining loyal clients, offering to complete any projects Jackson had started at reduced rates. I stand by my craftsmanship, I told them, even if it means temporarily working at a loss to maintain our relationship. The turning point came unexpectedly. Jackson had invited several key clients to his new workshop for a tour. What he could not have known was that Samuel Wright, an architect whose firm had commissioned multiple pieces, was my second cousin by marriage. Samuel attended the tour and recorded Jackson claiming credit for designs that were unmistakably mine. "He had your portfolio displayed as his own work," Samuel reported, sending me the surreptitious recording. When asked about specific techniques, he fumbled through explanations that made it clear he had never actually built these pieces himself. Armed with this evidence, and the documented forgery, I consulted a different lawyer, one specializing in intellectual property and business fraud. Her strategy focused not on expensive litigation but on the threat of criminal charges and reputation damage. "Your friend made a critical mistake," she explained. "By using your exact designs and claiming them as his own creations, he crossed from competition into fraud. By forging your signature, he committed a criminal offense." We sent a meticulously crafted cease and desist letter coupling legal threats with an offer of settlement. Jackson could continue his business under a completely different name, with no reference to Baxter, but had to publicly clarify the separation to all contacted clients, return all proprietary design files, and pay a settlement covering a portion of my losses. When Jackson called blustering with threats of counter-litigation, I remained calm. "I have the original design sketches dated years before you joined my company," I told him. "I have evidence of forgery. I have recordings of you claiming my work as your own. Fight this, and it becomes not just a civil case, but a criminal one." His overconfidence became his downfall. He had moved so quickly to capitalize on the stolen client relationships that he had delivered substandard work. The beautiful designs he promised proved impossible for him to execute without my expertise. Complaints began trickling in, then pouring. Tabletops with improper joins that split within weeks, finishes applied incorrectly that clouded or bubbled measurements that did not match specifications. The Harrington Hotel chain that had been my largest account, and one of Jackson's first conquests, reached out within 2 months. "The lobby installation is unacceptable," their purchasing director stated flatly. "We want you, the real Baxter, back on this project." One by one, clients returned, drawn back by the quality that had built my reputation in the first place. Jackson's company, built on theft rather than skill, began to collapse under the weight of its false promises. The settlement was finalized within 6 weeks. Jackson rebranded, completely moving to commercial office furniture with standardized designs. The non-disclosure agreement prevented either of us from disparaging the other publicly, but the industry verdict was clear in the client roster that gradually returned to my workshop. Rebuilding from betrayal taught me lessons I never would have chosen to learn. My workshop today looks different, smaller in physical size but stronger in foundation. Every employee signs comprehensive contracts with proper protections. Client relationships are documented properly, while still maintaining the personal touch that distinguished my business from the start. The team that remained loyal through the crisis formed the core of the reborn company. We became not just co-workers, but a kind of family bonded by shared adversity and collective triumph. Tyler, who had initially left for Jackson's company, returned within months, bringing valuable insights about the competitor's operations. My grandfather once told me that wood reveals its true character under pressure, the seemingly perfect piece that warps and twists versus the modest plank that holds true despite stress. People, I learned, are much the same. The betrayal revealed weaknesses in my business approach that needed addressing, but also showed me the genuine strength in relationships built on mutual respect rather than exploitation. I no longer handle every piece that leaves our shop, but each carries my standards and training. The business has grown beyond my hands alone, becoming something more sustainable. Ironically, Jackson's betrayal forced me to create a company that could outlast any single relationship, including potentially my own active involvement someday. The most valuable lesson was learning the difference between trust and blind faith. I trust my team completely, but with systems that make betrayal difficult. I value loyalty immensely, but recognize it must be earned continuously, not assumed based on history alone. I never spoke to Jackson again after the settlement. I heard through industry channels that his commercial ventures struggled for 2 years before closing. The last I knew, he had left woodworking entirely for a corporate marketing position. The anger I once felt has faded into something more like pity. He gained temporary access to what I had built, but never experienced the joy of building something himself. My business today is stronger than ever, with annual revenue exceeding $1 million and a waiting list that stretches 9 months. More importantly, I sleep soundly, knowing that what I build rests on a foundation of genuine craftsmanship and transparent relationships. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you completely trusted? How did you rebuild afterward? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that even after losing everything, you can build something better than before. Thank you for listening. And remember, in both woodworking and life, the strongest joints are the ones that have been tested by pressure.